House of Leaves is a weird book. It's the life story of the editor of an analytical textbook by a blind man about a movie everyone's seen but nobody's heard of. A simple family drama that turns into a horror story rooted in psychological elements, classical literature, and Eldritch geometry. It's about deep-rooted fears based in reality, of love and emptiness and hope and failure. No, it's about the dark unknown, monsters and the mazes they drag their way out of. It's about a dog dying at the side of the road for no good reason. It is all of these things. This is not for you. And honestly, it's not for most people. But those few people that don't find it overly pretentious, which it is, intentionally and very much self-aware about it, and who can handle its multiple genres will love it. The story here is unique in that it can be divided into 3 distinct parts. Johnny Truant, the editor, writes multiple-page long footnotes mostly dealing with his personal life filled with drugs, one-night stand, and his inexplicable obsession with the book he acquires, more than the actual contents, or the reason he made a footnote in the first place. Oddly, it rarely detracts from the flow of the story, except when it's meant to, but more on that later. His story is a bit like American Psycho, filled with vice and violence, and at the end you can't be sure just how much of it was real. The more he works on the book, the more he gets obsessed with it, and the downward spiral he was on changes directions drastically. While there are only 3 main stories happening either at the same time or inside of each other, depending on how you look at it, a third of the book, the real one, that is the so-called second edition, is filled with appendices and other content that is completely skippable, but give greater insight into what's going on, particularly letters from Johnny's mother, who is institutionalized and paranoid. One short footnote implies that there's something relevant to be found there, and like a rabbit hole, if you read them all you can see language she uses in Johnny's word choice and parallels in their paranoia. The timing of the footnote that triggers you to look forward in the book by several hundred pages when you would never otherwise do so challenges your perspective about whether Johnny's experiences are real or not. Some are clearly hallucinations, but are they caused by some kind of hereditary dementia, or is his research into the book in the house causing it? There is evidence for both. The book within a book, House of Leaves, was written by a blind man named Zampano with much assistance. From the beginning of the story, Zampano is found dead by unknown means, and it's written off as simply as old age. Johnny and his friend scavenge his apartment, which for some reason is sealed off from the outside, from the windows down to the vents, and there are measuring tapes stuck across every wall, floor, and ceiling. Johnny, mostly out of curiosity, takes a trunk filled with the unfinished manuscript for House of Leaves, and tons of notes, noticing a deep scratch on the floor, as if some kind of monstrous claw had slashed a gouge in it. Zampano, despite being dead from the beginning, somehow remains a character through memory. Johnny's footnotes recall his life, and the variety of people that read to him and helped him translate books give his character a life we would never have seen otherwise. For example, he would use quotes from famous literature in their various original languages to seem more well-read, or devoting an entire rambling chapter to the origin and metaphorical meaning of the word echo. He tries to build an image of being a sort of blind old wise sage through stylistic techniques like this. For being blind, he writes very well about a movie, The Navidson Record, supposedly an internationally famous cult hit that well-known film critics have commented on for a variety of reasons, from trying to prove that the movie from the early 90s is reality and could not have been made with special effects, to the architectural impossibilities of the house, to feminist criticisms of the characters. The problem is, none of these interviews with well-known celebrities, articles, or entire books even, ever existed according to Johnny's research, and none of the people Zampano supposedly interviewed had ever even heard of Zampano or the infamous Navidson Record. So what is the Navidson Record? Originally a documentary about photojournalist Will Navidson and his family settling into their new house, it soon becomes more than something so mundane and simple, as they realize that the house is half an inch bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. Not a significant amount, but significant enough. Significant enough to make you wonder, are you just measuring wrong? Surely it's impossible. That has to be you. You screwed it up just like with everything else in your life. You obsess about it like it's the only thing in your life. You get your friends to help, a professional, someone with more precise tools. Now it's 3/4 of an inch too big. Is this the proper measurement, or has it grown? You decide which one to believe, but you know it's really the other. You've reconnected with your estranged brother, who's now found out about what's going on. There's now a short hallway connecting the two kids' bedrooms. It's several feet longer than what the wall should allow. This should not be allowed to exist. Nor should the door that appears on the wall facing the front yard. The door that opens to another hallway, this one leading far into the darkness of void while the yard remains as it should be. This hallway begs to be explored. It's cold, featureless, dark, endless. There are stairs going down to who knows how deep, and once in a while, the sound of something horrible. This is the story of a lifetime if you can get a couple cameras in here. Navidson's story goes deeper, so to speak, parallel to Johnny's, with Zampano's book bridging the two. House of Leaves, at this point, stops being a coherent book and turns into a mess somewhere between a modern art and the crazed writing on the wall of an old-school sanitarium. Significant words are in different colors, most notably house. Parts about minotaurs and their mythology are written in red and crossed out, and some entries are even censored with black paint entirely as if to hide some awful truth. While the book is more than 700 pages, you can take away the odd formatting and probably save about 200 pages. But that is what makes this book so interesting. Or dumb, depending on who you ask. But the strange formatting that begins alongside the peak of the story serves a purpose other than simply being weird. The structure of the text reflects the situation of the characters. As they get more and more neurotic, the text warps and distorts in a labyrinthine fashion. It reflects the state of the house as it too becomes even more distorted and incomprehensible. This is probably the only book that needs a mirror to be read completely. The layout of the pages becomes more sparse to show the distortion of time, and text ends up at odd angles to show the distortion of space. While the story definitely stands on its own, the way the writing leans on the fourth wall really helps it give a sense of what's going on. It helps the three stories flow into each other and intertwine, instead of being side by side and relatively disconnected. Zampano's textbook about filmmaking, psychology, and Greek mythology would be especially weak without Johnny constantly interrupting to say how boring it is and ask why he can't just get to the point, or wonder why he's even writing about it in the first place. And the increasing terror and confusion about Will's journey below the house is supported by Zampano's dry but crucial science facts that show just how messed up the situation is. The combination of the three stories coming together and the themed formatting of the writing makes the book feel almost interactive, as it forces you to turn the book at various angles, read backwards, or use a mirror. Follow footnotes back and forth like a labyrinth, and flip through pages at an appropriately uncomfortable pace. As the book warns, this is not for you. But some people will appreciate it, and it's those people that this book is for. Give it a read for yourself if you like psychological or Lovecraftian horror. You won't be disappointed. Today I hit 2,000 subscribers, and I couldn't be more happy, surprised, and proud. Thanks for everyone who's subscribed over the last year and a half, and if you like this video, I hope you consider subscribing, liking, and telling your friends on the social medias. That's all from me for today, and until next time, I'll see you around.